Hello and welcome back to the She Lives Purposefully podcast. I am so thankful that you are here today. We have such a good conversation. I was telling our guests right before we started recording that I am so excited for this topic. I just feel like it's so needed. And even just in my personal life, I'm like ready to receive what she is going to pour out. But today we have Becky Thompson on the podcast, and I have a little bit about her here. You guys, she is a USA Today best-selling author, and I'm sure many of you know this, but the founder of the Midnight Mom Devotional, which is an online community, and it's a ministry gathering of almost, is this correct, 2 million women in nightly prayer. How unbelievable. So cool. Her ministry focuses on restoring peace to the anxious mama's heart. And y'all, you know, if you listen to the show, I am a mama and I am anxious. So this is going to be so good. And she just too invites women into an encounter with God's presence. So Becky, welcome to the She Lives Purposefully podcast. Can you just tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, all that good stuff?
Absolutely, Megan. Thank you for the invitation. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I've got a good feeling about our chat today. So,
me too.
I'm Becky Thompson, married to my husband, Jared. We live in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. We've got 3 kids. Our oldest is 15, then 14, and then 10. We've been married for almost 19 years now, and I get to travel and speak, and I've written 10 books in 10 years, and I run that online community with my momma, and it's just a multi-generational ministry that we actually have well over 2 million now, 2 million moms gathered in nightly prayer, and it's just wild what the Lord has done there in that community. And my heart is to just remind women that the Lord is with them and that He has hope and healing and peace for their overwhelmed, anxious, and stressed out hearts. So that's my story. That's who I am.
I love that. I love that. Also, 19 years of marriage, that's incredible. That deserves like a round of applause for real.
Thank you.
That's so sweet. How did you guys meet?
So I have to start with, I went to a private Christian university because I wanted to be in ministry someday, and I wanted to marry a man who was also in ministry. So I made the joke that I went to find a pastor husband, and I took classes that I thought pastors would take so that I could be around the pastor guys at my school.
I love
this
it.
is
oh my
real.
gosh.
I spent a lot of money. So when I met my husband at the mall, I was like, you know what? I had finished my first year of college. I had not met a pastor husband, and I met this guy at the mall, and I was just like, I did that line. There's this line in this random movie, and it's like, she's like, just don't fall in love with me. Think it's in like, what movie is that?
Is that A Walk to Remember?
A Walk to Remember.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cue the tears.
A Walk to Remembered my husband and said, just don't fall in love with me. And accidentally fell in love with him. And then I was so convinced that I was going to marry like a pastor someday and be in ministry with my husband that when the Lord spoke to me about Jared Thompson and said that like he's the one and you're going to marry him and it was all that good stuff, I was like, this guy doesn't even know he's going to be a pastor someday. And man, those first few years of marriage were rough because I kept being like, are you sure that you don't want to like... So anyway, he is the fire chief in our small town.
So
and
cool.
It is a ministry in itself, and it is amazing. And the thing is, Megan, I just didn't see how God was writing my story at the time. I was so narrow-minded isn't the right way. I just was crushing my own expectations, like my own plans and purposes with the weight of my own expectations. And so I learned to release that to the Lord really early on. And man, my life has been so much better since then. And I always like to say that, you know, I live in the middle of nowhere in my husband's hometown. And when I moved out here, I was like, man, everything's really just turning out nothing like I thought it would. And what do I do with all these like unmet, like what do I do with all the things I thought would be different? And as the Lord began to lead me down this path and showed me like faithfully that He was in it, and that not only was Jared the right guy for me and this little family that we were creating, just all in His perfect plan, all in the Lord's perfect plan, but like even the way He led me into ministry and getting to write books and speak to mamas and do this whole thing, man, back roads really can lead us exactly where we're supposed to be. And that's kind of just an underlying theme of what the Lord lets me say to women all over. So anyway, that's how I met my husband. I know I could have taken your whole podcast to tell that story, but it's a cute story, and I'm glad for it.
I love it. I was cracking up that you were like, my goal is to find a pastor, and so I'm going to spend the money to do that. That's so funny. I went to just for a semester, but Bible college out in California, and there was a saying. I don't know if this was the same too. I feel like it's a theme at like Christian schools. It's like ring by spring or your money back. I don't know.
That's it. Ring by spring or your money back guaranteed. So
I
had no ring. I was very disappointed.
That's so funny.
But
oh
the
my
Lord's
gosh.
plan was even better.
Yeah.
So even better.
That's really sweet. I love that. I'm about to have you back on for a whole other episode just talking about everything that you just said. That's so powerful and so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. But let's dive into talking about your new book, which is Healing Rest. What made you, what stirred this up in your heart? What made you passionate about talking about healing rest specifically for mamas? If you could just, start there, and then we can really dive into all the things.
Sure. So I've never written a book for a woman that I don't see in the mirror. All of my books are for the season of life that I'm in. Like, what did I need to hear? What is the Lord speaking to me in that season? Are there other women going through this as well? And so I've been a mom now for 15 years, and I mothered through the pandemic. I mothered when the world fell apart back in 2020. And when all of that messaging came through from just everywhere, social media, the news, people we loved, that the world wasn't safe, that life wasn't safe, that we had to do everything we could to keep everybody we love safe. Like, our minds believed it. Like, our brains perceived all of that messaging. And I think a lot of women began to struggle with mental health, with their emotional health, and I think even with their physical health as a result of all of that. And when the world sort of started to go back to normal, or just move forward, even if it didn't go backward to the way things were before, we really just didn't have a chance to stop and go, man, that was a lot. What we went through was a lot, and address what our brains and our bodies experienced, and what our souls and our spirits experienced in that season. We just sort of kept putting one foot in front of the other and trudging along. And I think from the moms that I know in my life today, and the women that I hear from across the country and even the world, they're just exhausted. And they're more than just physically tired. They're spiritually tired. They're soul sapped. And they need the Lord, and they need rest in Him. But this, when you're a mama, it's how do you even find a pause in your day? So how do you learn to rest when you can't even pause? How do you rest in Jesus before the work is done? And that's the heart of healing rest, leaning into the arms who hold us, even while we try to hold everything together in our own strength by our own arms. So that's the heart of it.
Love that. I do want to talk about that later too, just practically when you feel like you have no space to rest, how do you actually find rest? So I do want to get to that. But first, I love this topic so much because I do think as moms, and I think sometimes too, just as women, maybe even people in general, we can hold this feeling of overwhelm as a badge of honor. We feel we need to earn, any sort of rest. I don't know, I can't do my everything shower until I really earn it and I do all the things and I have to be totally wiped out. And I'm so proud of, I don't know, just, I know for myself, I do hold it like a badge of honor. And I have for years, even before I was a mom, just feeling so exhausted. But it has left us completely exhausted. And I do agree. I think rest is so important. I think it's so biblical. So what would you say, I guess, to the mom who holds those things? She holds it like a badge of honor. She feels like she has to earn rest. What are your thoughts on those kind of mentalities? And what would you say to the woman or the mom listening who's that's me? I totally resonate with that idea.
Yeah, I think that I think there's a lot to that there that we can unpack. I know as women we want to be seen. I want people to see how much I'm carrying. I want people to see how hard it's been. I want people to see how overwhelmed I really feel. And if I look like it's easy, or if I look like I can do it all, and I don't like show my struggle, or like look frustrated in it, or like, how is anybody going to see how I actually feel about it? Like, how is anybody going to see me and how hard it really is? And on the other side, there's a whole idea from a whole other group of women. They're like, I don't want anyone to see. I don't want anyone to see that I'm struggling or striving, and that it doesn't just come naturally, and that I can't do it all, because it seems like everybody can do it all. And so there's like two very different views. And I've been both women. I've been the one that's like, don't you see how hard this is, getting the trash bag out and shaking it loudly so my husband sees that I am once again, whapa, whapa, you shake out that stupid trash bag, because you're like, don't you hear that I'm the one doing the trash again? Like, didn't you see the overflowing stuff that someone needs to deal with? Why is this falling on me? And we notice these things. We pay attention to these things. And I can only speak for myself, but I wonder if there's a listener who's like, yeah, I'm always keeping a list of what needs to be done. It seems like it always falls on me to remember what we're out of, what we have to buy, that the diapers are running low, that the wipes are getting dried out, that I have to replace the wipes from my diaper bag with the ones from the nursery, but then I won't have the ones in the nursery, and then I'm going to have to like all of these little bitty things that just compound for years. And then our mental checklists just never fully get checked off, because tomorrow we wake up and there's more life to live. Like, there's more stuff to do. And so we think like, I'll only be able to rest when all of my work is done.
Yeah.
Because then my mind can rest too. Like, I can physically stop and sit down even before all the things are done. I can sit down while the baby does like the tummy time on the ground, or like plays in their little bouncer thing. Like, I can find moments to rest my body, but my brain just won't turn off. And man, that lie of the enemy, that's because that's really what it is, that like our success is found in our completed work, or we have to figure it all out and hold it all together and get it all under control before we can just stop. It's like a line that's always moving. It's like a finish line that's always just out of reach, which is why the Lord tells us, and like you said, it's biblical, that we need to practice. We have to practice it because we're not good at it. We need to practice resting even before the work is done. And I always say, like, we can rest because of finished work, but it's not because of our finished work. We can rest in Jesus's finished work on the cross that made it available for him to come close so our souls could rest in him. And that's the rest we're actually craving. That's the rest we really want. We think we want like an hour to ourselves or a week of vacation, but we come back and there's more life waiting for us. So the real work is, if our souls can rest in Jesus, if we can find the rest in our hearts that spills out onto our bodies, that spills into our minds, and work from even that place, then we don't become as desperate for the vacation, the trip to Target, the nap. Like when we can just get our souls at rest in Jesus and stop striving and struggling and worrying and holding everything together in our own strength, man, when our soul can take that inhale and exhale and just kind of let it be, then it flows into all the other areas of our life that are very practical.
Yeah. I love that so much, just the differentiation between, our physical rest, because I think maybe sometimes we can confuse the two. Like, I'm so tired and think that like, okay, if I just sit, but then your mind's racing and, emotionally, spiritually, you're just not like resting. And I have found in my own life, and I think just what you're saying is true too, where it's like, when I am going to the Lord for rest, when I have like that rest for my mind, for my spirit, then oftentimes I actually feel like physically rested too. I'm like, okay, like I can march on in the rest of this day. And I thought it was so, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like really connected, or like not enlightened, but like it was great too how you connected, I guess. Just are wanting everybody to see how much we're doing, with just wanting to actually feel seen as women. And I thought that was really profound too, because I don't think I've ever really connected the two necessarily, and just thinking like, okay, like I want everybody to know like I'm wearing this badge of honor of how much I'm doing, just because I want to feel seen, just because I want people to know, just because of that. So I thought that was really cool too. And, you know, really then kind of needing to find that actually in the Lord instead. Like, Lord, you see me, like, you've done so much for me. And so, yeah, I thought that was really great too. So kind of then going into that question that you alluded to before, how do we practically find that rest when it does feel like, okay, you know, physically, I don't know when I'm going to find time for rest, or maybe physically I can, but I do have that list in my brain that feels never ending. And so if I can't check all those things off today or this week or this month, how do I actually practically find that rest in the Lord?
Yeah. I always say that we cannot rest in arms that we do not fully trust.
Ooh, that's
and
good.
So, yeah. So if we are like feeling like we have to hold it all together, like the outcome of everything is really on us, then it's not just a mentality. Like, it's not just something we're thinking. It's something we're believing in our hearts about the Lord. Like, if we feel like our success or our kids' success or our marriage or our ministry or our community, if we feel like we are the only one that can do it all, that's responsible for it all, that the Lord is just adding like some kind of supernatural blessing and coming alongside us in our work rather than us coming alongside what God is doing, that it's out of balance. That belief is out of balance. When we think it's up to me and I have to hold it all together and I've got to do it all, it's often because we don't fully trust the Lord to be God. We don't fully trust the Lord and his outcome. We might say we are, we might want to believe that we are, but we probably trust ourselves to do it more than we trust the Lord to do it. Now, I'm not talking about laundry. I'm not talking about dishes. I'm not like, the Lord's not going to show up and like Cinderella, fairy godmother, my dishes into the cabinets. Like, that's not going to happen. There's real work that has to be done. There's real sacrifice in my time that needs to be offered to Jesus. But I think we're really tired, not just from the practical doing, but from the worrying. We're emotionally exhausted because we feel like, let's just be honest, I know the things that weigh heaviest on my heart because I've been holding them so long. I know that how I want those situations to turn out. I know how I want that to go. I know how I want God to fix that. And what I really want is for him to just listen to my prayer and do what I'm asking him to do. I want to direct Jesus. I want to tell him what I need and have him do it because I prayed the right way or said the right things. But none of that is really what the gospel offers. What the gospel offers is an invitation. In Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And I gotta be honest, Megan, I think every woman listening has been like, okay, Jesus, okay, let's figure this out. I've got these things under control. What I need you to do, Lord, is just these things that are outside of my control. I've got the rest. I've got this. I can handle this. I've got this. Look, I'm doing so good. I don't even need you in this area. Aren't I doing so good to not need you in this area? But that's not the picture of the gospel. Like, the picture of the gospel is to step up under his yoke and co-labor alongside him. To not just ask the Lord to bless the work of our hands, but to listen for what God is doing and to step up under what he is already doing and then stay in step. Like, that's it. Our job is to submit to his work and join him in it. And we want rest to come because, the Lord's like, come to my beach house and you'll find rest. Come away to this cabin and you'll find rest. Come away to this quiet place and you'll find rest. But the invitation is, come to me and take my yoke upon you, which is work. I mean, a yoke symbolizes that there is work to be done, that there is a mission in front of us. But the thing about two working side by side, yoked together, is that the stronger of the two sets the pace. The stronger of the two sets the direction, and the stronger of the two carries the greater burden. And so I've been guilty of like, Lord, I just want you to pick up the other end of what I'm doing, God. And the invitation of Jesus is so kind and gentle in that he's like, no, Becky, come join me in what I'm doing. It was never up to you to hold it all together. It was never up to you to set the speed. It was never up to you to decide what's going to happen here. It's always been me. It's always been my plan. And when we join him in what he is doing, we find rest for our souls. But we struggle in submitting. A lot of us don't even like to say that word, but submitting to his plan and his purpose, because let's be honest, it means that we're no longer in control. We want to gain rest, but keep control. And that's just not what the Lord offers us. What he offers us is so much better. It's so much better because it means we don't have to figure it out on our own. It means we don't have to make it happen on our own. It means that we're not even the only ones responsible for keeping our children on the track that they need to be on. It's safe, like they need to be safe. And all our job is to stay in step with Jesus, to continually place our families into his arms, place our circumstances, our marriages, the things that weigh heaviest on us back in his arms, and trust that he will hold it all in his very capable arms. I got off teaching, preaching for a minute. Thank you for letting me do that. I just I just feel like we have to be reminded of what the gospel promises us. And that is that we are not the savior of our story.
That's so good. That's so good. Seriously, Becky, I feel like Jesus just spoke to me through you, like right into my soul. That was so good and so needed. I seriously just feel like I was in a counseling session. Like, so beautiful. No, it was so beautiful. I think it's so important, just that distinction that you made between, okay, like, I'm doing this and I want the Lord to come and just bless what I'm doing. And like, I'm running the show, I'm in control, and control is something that I personally struggle so much with, just feeling like I need to control everything. I want everything in my arms and like, okay, but then on the flip side, it's like, okay, Lord, I'm actually just going to come co-labor with you, and you're the one running the show. You're the one holding everything together. And you asked me to like come under your wing and yes, like take your yoke upon me, and do work and like labor in what you have. But you're the one who's holding it together. You're the one who's doing the heavy lifting and all of that. And how freeing and peace-giving that is to let go and say like, okay, I can come alongside you instead of just vice versa. And I just agree, I think, even in just listening to the way you talk about that and reminding us of what scripture calls us to in that does bring rest, because it is just like casting it all upon him. And it's so beautiful. So yeah, that was so good. Thank you for sharing all of that. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love think it. When you were honest just now and you're like, I want control, I think a lot of listeners right now are in that spot. Like, yeah, I struggle with it. I want control. And I think when you look and you go like the heart of control and wanting to control something it's often like, this is not Becky Thompson, the counselor. She's just Becky Thompson who has a Bible degree, right? Like, I don't know. But what I found in my life is that the things that I want to control are the things that I love the most. And I want the outcome to be okay. Yeah. And a lot of it's rooted in safety. Like, I want that to turn out well. I want that to be all right. I want that to be like the way I do it because I trust myself to get it done. Like I trust myself to handle that the way I want to handle it. And the Lord offers us this picture when Jesus says in Matthew 11, that his yoke is easy. His yoke is easy. That word easy never made sense to me there. Like, what do you mean it's easy? It's not easy to follow you. It's very hard, actually, to lay down my own will, my own plans. Like, what does that word mean? And recently I was doing a study and I looked it up. And in the Greek, that word is most often used for the word kind. Like, his yoke is kind. It's the loving kindness of God that he doesn't ask us to figure it out on our own. That he doesn't let us stay in our struggle on our own, that he doesn't let us try to hold the world together in our own strength, but in his loving kindness, he invites us to walk with him and let him lead and figure it out. And that is the journey of faith, continually. Like, that is the continual sanctification of becoming more like the Lord and becoming set apart from the world as we follow Jesus daily, whether it's our marriage or our motherhood or our ministry. So it's very honest and very real, and it's a very important conversation to have, because how can we rest? Really, how can we rest when we've been trying to hold it all together? And that's the heart line of the book, that the world isn't safe, but we are safely held by a good God who loves us and promises to never leave us.
I love that. And I do want to dive into a little bit more of that too, because I think a lot of what we've been talking about, at least in the way I'm processing and receiving it, is a lot of the things like in my own world. We have motherhood, marriage, my ministry, whatever it looks like, but we also are inundated with the anxieties and worries and cares of the world at large and the world around us. We have literally access to know absolutely everything that's going on pretty much in any country, in any area, and the good things, but mostly, the bad things, and we're flooded with it. It's not just that we can go seek it, but it's thrown in our faces, whether it's Instagram, news notifications, whatever. So what encouragement would you have for the woman too, who just is feeling like, okay, this sounds awesome for my own world, and I feel like I can try and trust Jesus with those things and find rest through that, but also like the world at large. And I'm seeing all these things. This feels very overwhelming, and not only for myself, but maybe too for my kids, like imagining the future, whatever that looks like. What encouragement would you have for just the anxiety and cares in that sense too?
Absolutely. So Healing Rest came out after my book, Peace, Hope, and Healing for the Anxious Mama's Heart, released. I was going through a season in 2018, 2019, and I have anxiety, so I don't even like to say struggle with it, because there's times when the anxiety is worse than others, but it's just been a part of my life forever. I've also known the Lord for as long as I can remember. These are just two independent facts about me. Like, I wear glasses, I take medicine for allergies, and I have anxiety. And there's times when the anxiety is more under control and my thoughts don't loop the way they do in other seasons. And there's times when, right after I had kids, the postpartum anxiety was the worst, and it went undiagnosed, and I was really struggling because I was just like, have more faith, lean in, it'll be fine. And I had all the faith. I read all the Bible that I could read. I played all the worship music. I prayed. I had counselors. I did all the things. I checked off all the boxes, and I would still wake up and my heart would just feel so heavy. And I would think about my day, like, what's coming? What am I worried about? And I could never put my finger on it. It was just like this dread in the pit of my stomach. And so 2018, 2019, we had moved from Oklahoma. We were living in Los Angeles at the time. And the anxiety was the worst it had ever been, ever. And my kids were little, grade school and younger. And I woke up one day and I was just sort of going about my day as usual. And I'm standing at my kitchen sink, and all of a sudden I have this picture in my heart. And it's kind of like I was remembering a movie scene I'd seen before, but there was no movie I'd ever seen before. It was, I call it's like a vision, but people aren't always familiar with how that works. So I'm good with saying I had a vision, but for the listener, it's like, what do you mean? I just mean the Lord gave my heart a picture, like a memory of something had happened, but it had never happened. So anyway, I'm standing at my kitchen sink, And all of a sudden, I see this woman, and she's standing in a dark forest at night, and she's barefoot and blindfolded. She looks like she's been kidnapped from her regular life and driven to the middle of nowhere and dropped off. And I watch as she lifts this blindfold from her eyes and looks around, and there's no light in any direction. It is only dark forest, and she is entirely alone. And all of a sudden, she cries out like any of us would. Just hello, just long and loud and hello, like, does anybody hear me? And no one calls back. And she is utterly by herself. And I was like immediately crying. It was just this really powerful moment. I said, Lord, who is she? And he said, Becky, she's a woman lost in the forest of fear, and you and I are going to lead her out together. And suddenly that season of life that I was in felt different. Because if I'm going to help another woman find her way out, then that means I'm finding my way out.
Yeah.
Like, that means that this season isn't just about how I get up and handle the anxiety that I'm struggling with that day. It's not just let's combat it, let's combat the symptoms. It's what is the truth that God is trying to teach me? What is the healing that's coming moment by moment? And now I'm responsible for it, like beyond just myself. Someone else is going to need to know, so I made a map. And that became my book, Peace, Hope and Healing for the Anxious Mama's Heart. And I have led tens of thousands of women through that book and online study. And there's a part of that book where I think the chapter is called Lions, Tigers, and a Million Millennial Mom Fears. Millennial Fears? Mom Fears? I don't even know. But this idea that we are raising our kids in a time when the world might not be any more dangerous than it was 100 years ago. Like, we have advances in modern medicine. We have things that, like, technically make our world safer than it was back then, but it seems so much more unsafe, and the fears are definitely 100 times louder. Like, we are surrounded by, overcome by, our senses are constantly told that we're not safe, our kids aren't safe, and all we can do is clench our fists and hold everything we love as close as we can. And this was especially the messaging in 2020. Right. And that's exactly when the book released. The book, the Lord gave me that vision in 2018, the end of 2019. I wrote the book and it released in 2020. And the Lord knew, like, he knew the timing of all of that.
Yeah.
And so as I lead these women through this study, and healing rest comes as a result of that. There was this one woman, and she says, Becky, like, I get it. I get that the Lord is with me. I get that I'm not solely responsible for protecting my kids. Like, the Lord is with me. He's the protector. But, like, how do I get my mind around the fact that the world is unsafe? That, you know, things that have happened in our schools locally, things that have happened across the world, like, the world is unsafe. Like, how do I actually rest when the world is unsafe? And she says, you tell me that God will keep me and my kids safe, but obviously there's people that I love, that I go to church with, and I wouldn't have said their kids were safe in that situation when whatever happened in their life unfolded. And I think we all have people in our lives that are going through things, and we're like, that doesn't seem safe. Like, they're not safe there. That wasn't a safe outcome. And the Lord spoke so clearly to me, Megan, and he said, the promise was never that we would be safe. The promise was that we would be safely held by a good God who loves us. And when we can get our minds around the outcome of our stories might not ever be what we want. None of us make it out of this life alive. Like, none of us. None of us make it out of this life alive. But if the presence of God can come, if the presence of Jesus can walk into our story, if we can feel and believe that we are actually held in this moment, you and I and every listener, held by the arms that were once spread out on a cross, pierced hands, so that he might wrap us up for all eternity, beginning the moment we say yes to him, not just at the end of our lives someday when we make it through all things, but like right now, he holds me. Right now, he holds you. Right now, he holds your little one. Right now, he holds all three of my kids. Right now, he holds you, listener. Like, if we can get our hearts around the fact that in this world we will have trouble, like John 16:33 says, but Jesus says in the rest of that verse, take heart, he's overcome. He hasn't just overcome to remove all of the problems from the world. That comes someday when he comes back to restore all things. But right now, He's overcome the separation that came between us, that kept us from being able to lean on him, to trust him, to hear his voice. Like, that's what the mama who's looking at the world and going, it's so unsafe, needs to hear. I can't promise her that everything will be okay. And anybody that is promising that isn't listening to the words of Jesus. What you can promise is that we are held by the arms of love, safely there, carried close to his heart. Are you familiar with Isaiah 41, verse 12? I think that's what it is. Isaiah 41, verse 10. And it's Jesus says that he carries the little lambs close to his heart, and that he gently leads the mothers of young. And that's where we are. Like, we are carried close to the heart of Jesus, held up against him. And that's the promise of God from before Jesus even came, that the Lord would carry us close.
I love that. That's so beautiful. I don't think I knew that verse. That's so beautiful.
I was trying to look it up while I was talking. I'm going to find it exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said it's Isaiah. Isaiah is so powerful.
Isaiah 41. It is really powerful.
I think, everything that you said was really awesome. There's just been different things in my own life too, where, things that happen that feel like, oh, this was, like you said, this is not a safe outcome at all. And it can feel very confusing, when you read something like, okay, like he safely holds us, or like he's the shelter, and, all this stuff. And I love that you differentiated, like, okay, that you will be safe is not the promise. In fact, like, we are going to go through a lot. Like, there's going to be tribulation, there's going to be trials. But we are safely held by a God who cares so infinitely for us, more than we can imagine. And so I think that's really beautiful. I love too that you said that you can't necessarily promise a mom, a woman, that everything is going to be okay from our perspective. But again, that the Lord holds all things, and the Lord is there with us, and that in the end, he's going to make everything right. And that is an incredible promise. And that, in the now, he's our comforter, he's with us. And that is an incredible promise too. And everything you said was so encouraging. Seriously, I can't get over, like, I needed this conversation so much today. So good.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like, listener, you're just getting to sort of peek into our like little moment here together. I love that. It's Isaiah 40, verse 11. Okay. It says, he tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them close to his heart. And he gently leads those that have young. And so I feel like we're both. We are the carried one that's carried close to the arms, carried safely in the arms of Jesus, close to his heart, but also he's gently leading us as we lead our kids. So
I love that. Oh, that's so beautiful. I feel like we can wrap up there. That's like so powerful, everything you just shared. Before we kind of wrap up, can you share with people where they can get your book? Number one, I'm sure it's like, in so many places, but also where they can find you and follow you, and connect with you. Yeah.
Sure. So we made it really simple. healingrestbook.com has the link to all of your favorite retailers where you can grab a copy of the book and find it cheapest. Like, get yourself a good deal. Find it through those links and like find a discount. But healingrestbook.com, and then you can find me at my website, beckythompson.com. That links to my socials. But if they want to join the Midnight Mom Devotional community, like the prayer community, they can just search us on Instagram or Facebook.
Cool.
So those are our places to find us.
I love that. I totally want to join the Midnight Moms community, and I will link the book too. I can't wait to dive into it. Again, this was such a powerful conversation. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely, Megan. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.